Recording is started. Well, happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to today's ABLN session. It's great to see you guys after all this time. I know we've started spacing the meetings out a little bit more. For today's session, it's going to be relatively brief. We have our normal broadband program updates, and then we have Catherine Krantz from Communities Unlimited to go over the Rural Broadband Institute and have some broadband conversations with us. Then, like always, we will end it with discussion. Last time we met, we had signed two BEAD grant agreements. We are very excited to announce that we have now signed 11 BEAD grant agreements, representing roughly 59,371 locations that will be brought high-speed internet through the BEAD program. These 11 BEAD grant agreements have been with Brightspeed, Decatur Telephone Company, which you might know as Rally Networks, Windstream Arkansas, which is also known as Kinetic or Unity, Aristotle, Clay County Connect, Premier Holdings, Hometown Internet, Texhoma Fiber, also known as Hillary, SpaceX, we all know as Starlink, Amazon Leo, and finally, Northern Arkansas Telephone Company, or NATCO. This represents a huge step forward in our program, and we could not be happier with how quickly things have been moving along. This is a little map that shows those 59,000 plus locations. You can see it covers the vast majority of the state. We really only have a few more regions to get those grant agreements signed in. We continue to sign the remaining BEAD grant agreements with providers on a rolling basis. The providers who have signed agreements are now working on their environmental review and pre-construction activities so that they can begin their projects as quickly as possible. Our state level immediate timeline has not changed. We've completed both rounds of legislative approval. We're ongoing with the execution of grant agreements, and we expect providers to complete project environmental reviews and begin construction at the end of this quarter, beginning to middle of Q3 this year. And with that, I'm just going to go ahead and hand it over to Catherine Krantz. If you'd like to, there you go. Do you have a presentation to share today?
I do, and hopefully my technology will work. I'm working on a different computer today, which is always a challenge. But I do have a PowerPoint. Thanks very much, Noah. Great to see you again. And thanks everyone for joining us this morning. Let me see, and happy Juneteenth. I am from Texas, so we've been celebrating Juneteenth here my entire life. And I know some states are new to that, but I had the fortunate experience of getting to meet Opal Lee, the woman in charge of getting this to become a national holiday. She's a woman she's over 100 years old now, but when I met her, she was 96 years old, and she had traveled all across America campaigning for Juneteenth to be a national holiday, something we celebrated here in Texas a long time. So happy to be here on Juneteenth. And let's see, sharing my screen. All right, hopefully everyone can see that. My name is Catherine Krantz. I'm the Area Director for Broadband at Communities Unlimited. Some of you I know, and the others hope to get to know you soon. Today we're going to talk about the Rural Broadband Institute and Broadband Conversations number 4, which I'm hoping you'll join us in. So Communities Unlimited is a 501c3 nonprofit community development organization. We were founded in 1976. We offer infrastructure, technical assistance to communities in 8 program areas: water, wastewater, entrepreneurship, CDFI lending, economic development, GIS, healthy foods, housing, and my program, Broadband. And that's our website. Lots of great stuff. We serve in 7 states: Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Texas. We have leveraged over $200 million in 2025, lent directly $6.8 million, served a population of over 2 million, and served in 1,301 communities last year. So how does that apply to broadband? Well, broadband is one of the newest programs at Communities Unlimited. It's only been around for about 3 years when they hired me to start it. And that is because the communities that we serve are some of the least connected communities in America. And as we as rural advocates know, broadband is often just one of many challenges these communities face. And even though we've made significant strides over the last few years, according to the most updated data available, there are still millions of Americans who lack access to high-speed internet, and most of them are in rural communities, some of the most remote, most under-resourced communities there are. And our broadband team is currently working with unserved and underserved communities in Southwest Arkansas, about 10 or 11 communities in Arkansas and the Mississippi Delta, Louisiana, East Texas, and along the Texas-Mexico border. Works out to be about 80 communities right now that we're active with long-term community broadband planning projects and technical assistance. Most of that work is funded by the USDA with their broadband technical assistance program that allows us to work with communities for a 2-year planning process, but also philanthropy and other projects. And here in the state of Arkansas, we have some good philanthropic partners that are helping us with our work. And this map just kind of shows where CU is across our program areas. And you can find out a lot more on our website. So in 2026, after about a year of efforts, we launched the Rural Broadband Institute. And it really is because we still see these challenges, and we don't want the focus to move away from us. And there are a lot of people at the policy level that never really understood the challenges that rural communities were facing anyway. And a lot of them think, well, problem solved. We had this big BEAD program, sent out the money, problem solved. And those of us who actually work in these communities know it's not just about one program. It's not just about access. It's not just about throwing money at it. It's a much more complex issue. So we want to make sure that the focus doesn't go away. And so we decided that we should launch a Rural Broadband Institute to make sure that our communities aren't left behind now or at every other technological advance in the future. So we created this Rural Broadband Institute to close the connectivity gap in rural America through technical assistance, research, training, and policy advocacy. The Institute will draw on CU's more than 50 years of offering infrastructure technical assistance to rural communities and direct broadband work across some of the least connected communities in the country. Because as we all know, when we're representing our own communities, that some of these things you wouldn't necessarily know unless you were actually living and working in these environments. And we just want to make sure that our communities have a seat at the table and have a voice. So we officially launched in May of 2026. We have a press release, and I'll try to copy and paste that into the chat for everyone if you want to read that press release. We had an article. And our mission is to just ensure that rural communities have equal access to technology and the economic and quality of life benefit it brings. And we say technology, not just broadband, because we understand that broadband is just a part of it. There's also going to be other types of technological infrastructure. We know the benefits of AI. We don't want our communities to be left out of any of it. So what have we done so far? Well, like I said, we've been working on it for over a year, just kind of kicking it around, trying to figure out what we could do. And we've been gathering rural broadband experts for a series of conversations about what unmet needs we have and what we can do about it. And our invited guests have included state broadband offices, including our very own Glenn Howie, who's always a joy to work with. Federal agencies, we have official USDA RD Telecom liaison officially from the agency to join our group. We've had academics, data scientists, researchers, authors, professors of agriculture, economics, and telecom. We've had a wide variety of ISPs, whether they're very small community level wireless internet service providers, electric co-ops, and regional fiber and wireless ISPs have joined the conversation. We've had educators, digital equity educators. We've had funders, private philanthropic, and I guess you could also say federal because the agencies have been involved, and community stakeholders, people like yourselves. And today I'm hoping to involve you all, the Arkansas Broadband Leaders Network, for this conversation number 4, because we are gathering information about what unmet needs exist. And so in a few seconds, I'll give you an opportunity to chime in. So at the Rural Broadband Institute, what are we going to be doing over the next 6 months? And I say 6 months because I want it to be an action institute, not just a thinking institute. So I kind of give myself some really serious timelines here. So we will provide information, resources, training, and support for rural communities. We do that already. Any community within our 7 states is allowed to call us, ask questions. We can share information, resources at any time. To do the deeper dive planning work, we have to make sure we have some funding for the project, but answering questions, sharing information, resources, we can do that anytime. Educate and inform policymakers and funders, just basically to advocate on behalf of the smaller communities that we represent. Gather and promote industry experts and thought leaders, facilitate broadband deployment to ensure rural communities are not left behind, offer professional development certificate programs. That's something I'm excited about. When I started this work, there wasn't really that many people doing it. And when I hire people to do this work, sometimes it's hard to find what exactly is the right capacity for it. So we're going to be offering a community broadband planner certificate, a broadband technical assistance provider certificate. And that's just a way to help people who want to get started and they don't know where to begin. It would be a course that would allow them to understand the basics. We'll also be supporting rural communities through facilitation and coordination, the type of work we already do. Facilitate broadband deployment by engaging with the community and coordinating with internet service providers and bringing the people together. Utility coordination, that's a real part of it. Some of you might remember we've done presentations in the past about our water mapping work. We help communities that don't have adequate or updated water maps get ready for deployment so they don't have disastrous and expensive water line breaks when they're doing buried fiber. We've been doing a lot of that. Also, I'll have to share with the guys at the office as soon as it's ready. We'll have a map very soon that overlays BEAD project areas with water systems, because a big part of the work we do at CU is with water systems, and we want to help water systems prepare for all the buried fiber deployment that's coming. We're anticipating about 50,000 miles of buried fiber deployment rolling out over our 7 states over the next few years with BEAD deployment alone. And we know that these water systems are in some of the most rural, remote, under-resourced communities. We want to help them get ready. So that's the type of things we do. We also do implementation support services when communities have contracts, they have work, and they just want, another support to help them go through it. How can you help? Well, this is where we get to the fun part of the presentation. And I'm going to ask some questions, and I hope you'll either put it in the chat or unmute and chime in, because I want to know what you need. So first thing to set is I just want to understand better what unmet needs you see in rural broadband. Is it access? Is it education? Is it funding? Is it data, technical assistance, other? I put on the slide to put it in the chat, but I realize now that I'm presenting, I don't know that I can see the chat. So that might be something I need to figure out. All right, now I can see the chat. So I'll go back to my slides too, but feel free to chime in, and you might just need to speak out so I can see it.
I do also have your slides, so I've
Great.
put it up so people can still see that.
Great. And I was going to go to the next slide too. So perfect. And then you can just help me through it. So, oh, great. Thank you, Timothy. Funding and local partners for a pilot. Yeah, funding is such a big part of it. Especially when broadband projects can be in the millions of dollars. some of the other things I wanted to get your thoughts on is who most needs education, information, and resources. We work at Communities Unlimited almost primarily with community stakeholders, but sometimes that's mayors, sometimes that's county commissioners, sometimes that's regional planning districts. So from you guys' perspective, because you are all community stakeholders and active in broadband and have been for a while, I think you'd be a good audience to help me work through this as far as um, some of these questions. So who do you think most needs this education? Elected officials, broadband offices and staff. I would argue that that is no longer true. The broadband offices, after working on this for several years now, are really well knowledgeable and informed and are some of the most knowledgeable in the country. Not as true in the beginning. When we first started, a lot of the broadband offices were really scrambling um, to learn and get caught up. But 3-4 years in, they're the experts in the room. We don't work too much with residents because we're not so much a client services facing organization, but definitely clients that are client facing organizations definitely can offer information to residents. We do host community meetings when we share information and let people know what's going on, because oftentimes it's the frustration of just not knowing when things are going to get better. So we do some community meetings, but generally we engage with the stakeholders and the elected folks because broadband often requires decisions at the municipal level. And when you're thinking about the things that you would benefit from knowing about, would it be better understanding of technology, better understanding of planning, public versus private money, access affordability, digital opportunity, whether it's understanding the need or designing impactful programs, funding sources, grants, or other, collaborating with ISPs, or integrating with other community efforts like water systems or healthcare. Thanks, Timothy. That's great. Mobile healthcare workers. Yes, for sure. And that's something that um, for at-home health, it's similar to the challenges facing school districts during the pandemic. Is we had spent all this money to connect all the schools, but then the kids were at home and they didn't have that connectivity at home. It's kind of the same with our hospitals. You have great connectivity oftentimes in a hospital, but for patient monitoring at home, not so great. And there's a lot of technological advances that require at-home monitoring that can help with that. We worked with a clinic in the Mississippi Delta that created hub sites funded by the USDA Distance Learning and Telemed program, which is still, might not be, it's either almost closed or will be closed very soon. I think it's the end of the month it closes, but it's funding for telehealth. Anyone else have any thoughts or ideas about unmet needs and where you see most of the work we do with the education, information, and resources is providing communities the basic education they need to take a seat at the table as far as what is broadband, why is it important. We do an overview of the basic technology, the differences between fiber, cable, um, wireless technologies, latency, things like that to help people understand. Because most people, as you know, they know their internet's good or they know it's bad, but they don't actually know much more than that. So we help them understand how different technologies might be available in their community. A big part of the education is understanding the rural broadband business model, understanding why a community or a small city might have 3 or 4 providers and why a small town might barely have one or be struggling to get one. So we help people understand that. We also help people understand the funding programs, the long history of trying to bridge the digital divide in America from 2010, the Telecommunications Act, up until today, and all the ways that's changed. So help people understand like a big picture part of it. And that's a constantly changing landscape too. We know one of the things we're working on now that we're just getting started is helping communities better understand data centers, what it's all about, and why it benefits a community to be at the table when these decisions are being made. I know that's pretty controversial. We're trying to navigate that right now with about 15 communities across our service area that are really unhappy about having data centers come into their community. And we're trying to thread that needle between bringing much needed technological infrastructure to rural America and making sure that communities' needs and wishes are taken into account. Let's see. One of the ways that we work with the local ISPs is just to help communities understand who is the award winner and try to get them to establish a construction timeline. One of the things that frustrates communities is how long it takes. We have a presentation about why does it take so long, help people understand. You guys probably know a lot more about that because you've been through this process with the broadband office, but a lot of community stakeholders don't understand that infrastructure planning can take years. So we help people understand that, help them know who their ISPs are and when they can expect deployment, also help them understand the things they can do to make it faster. You know, there are things that communities can contribute to make it faster. I think there might be one more slide there, no, but it's all about the same stuff. Let's see. Yeah, and just kind of with a better understanding of what people see the needs for, would love to have some feedback about what format would that information benefit. Webinars, interactive trainings, in-person training, conferences, mentoring, other formats. We do on our website right now have some resources. Through our USDA work, we do a monthly training community cohort with our communities where we offer a webinar about things that are of interest to them, whether it's how to utilize the FCC maps, or we had one about the E-rate program to make sure that our community anchor institutions in our communities have knowledge and access to the E-rate program. We did another one about this USDA distance learning and telemed program. Louisiana has a device program that's going on right now. So for our Louisiana communities, we did a webinar yesterday letting them know about a device program that they have created to utilize some of their remaining ARPA funds. We also talk about telehealth, different things. We do that once a month by webinar, and then we record it, we post it to the CU website. So I am going to copy and paste into the chat right now the links I was talking about, and I'm also going to put in the link to the CU broadband page, and that is that will give you access to these recordings that we have and resources. We also have one that I think is really valuable for everyone to watch. It's about getting ready for grants, and it is presented by the USDA and how communities need to be getting prepared for that. This is the right, that'll work. All right, well, anyone who's feeling the urge to speak up that hasn't already, I have, and I think, oh, I might have a slide there, no, with my contact information too. If anyone wants to reach out and get a hold of me. Yeah, there we go. That's it. So that's my email. That's my cell phone. that QR code will take you to our website. We have a wonderful communications team that has been doing a lot of writing about broadband. And because we are funded by the USDA, we use that in some of our reports. And because of that, it's another kind of like advocacy thing that we do. We write these articles, they get shared through the different agencies. And that way is we can shine a light on great needs in our community. There's been quite a few things about Arkansas recently. We were in Elaine, Arkansas, water mapping last week, and we'll be going back down there to finish up the next 2 weeks. The communities that we're currently working with in Arkansas, if I can remember them all, are Louisville, Garland, Morrilton, up around Pine Bluff, Sherrill, Tucker, Gould, along the Arkansas Delta in Phillips County. It is Lakeview, Oneida, Elaine, Melwood. I might be missing one or two, but we have 2 broadband technical assistance providers working in Arkansas. So if you have any questions or concerns or want any help about anything at all, please reach out.
Thank you very much, Catherine, for your wonderful presentation and the information. You know, we're very excited to be able to work with groups like Communities Unlimited in order to help reach out to more people and get good work done beyond just connecting people. I will include the slides you just showed in the notes that I send out after each one of these meetings. But for now, I would like to just open up the floor to any questions about any subjects you guys might be interested in. We'll stick around until at least 10:31 in case anyone is typing out a long question.
And thanks very much for inviting us. Always happy to help and love all the work that you guys are doing in Arkansas. I brag about you all the time.
We really appreciate that. And you know, you mentioned the water mapping program, and we're really excited about that because obviously a lot of water systems aren't properly mapped in smaller communities, and we've got a lot of digging about to go on. So it's very important. We do have a question from Danny. When will Starlink be ready to take orders for their granted locations at affordable pricing, in quotations? So just like any other provider, there are certain approvals and reviews that Starlink must go through before they can start providing service through the BEAD program that is ongoing. We anticipate that being within the next few months. So we'll always release more information whenever we have it. It also looks like most people's AI plans time out at 30 minutes, and we've been around for just about that long. So I'll go ahead and give you guys some time back on your day. Look forward to the notes I send out after these meetings. If you don't get them, please reach out to me at noah.haynes@arkansas.gov, and I'll get you added to the email list. Other than that, enjoy your weekend. Bye, guys.